Another dramatic season of the Championship is over, and yeah, what an interesting one it's been. Battles at the front, which kind of fizzled out towards the end, but a really close relegation battle that kept us really entertained. And now the season's over, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to grade each team's regular season before we get into the playoffs, starting off with the team that finished bottom, and that is Sheffield Wednesday. And for me, I've got to grade them a D. It's really not been a great season for Sheffield Wednesday, going through 4 managers. If you include caretaker managers, just really isn't great. And yeah, even with the points deduction, I still think they could have stayed up if they appointed Darren Moore earlier, and that's just boardroom decisions that have cost them ultimately this season. Moving on to Rotherham, and I'm going to grade them a C. Personally, I think Rotherham have been really unlucky this season. Without all of the COVID issues they've had, I do think they would have stayed up, but I kind of felt like they just burnt out towards the end with all of the issues they've had. And yeah, I just thought it was always big arse with all the issues and the games piling up. But I don't think they've been too bad this season. I wouldn't be surprised to see them bounce back. For Wycombe, I'm going to go for a B-. Wycombe, can't really grade them anything about a B or above really for Wycombe, but I have gone for a B- as they went down. But yeah, to be honest, this really wasn't a bad season for Wycombe. They've shown they can compete at this level, and after the first few games, I think everyone feared for them. But they've just shown how good they can be. In 21st finished Derby, and to be honest, I've got to go for a D for them. Let's face it really was a great season for the club size of Derby. But yeah, they're just an absolute shambles on and off the pitch. It did look like Wayne Rooney was slightly picking up after the terrible season that Philip Cocu had enjoyed before he got sacked. But yeah, they really did peter out towards the end. They were lucky to stay up. For Huddersfield, I've gone for a C. In the first half of the season, there seemed to be real promise under Carlos Corberán. But in the second half of the season, they were just absolutely awful. And you could say they were even lucky to stay up. So yeah, but I do think you should give Corberán some time. He could do a decent job there next season. Bristol City, I'm going to give a C- for them. Yeah, it did look like early on a season of promise. I don't think anyone saw the start they would have, winning their first 4 on a trot. So yeah, it looked like really promising signs for them. But ultimately, the season just petered out, and Dean Holden got the sack in February, deservedly so, because they were playing awful. But yeah, they just haven't been the same team since. In 18th finished Birmingham, and to be honest, I'm going to give them a C. I don't think many people would have agreed with C before Lee Bowyer took over, but the job he's done ever since then to get them to 18th, they were just absolutely awful under Wright or Karanka, but fair play to Bowyer, he's done a great job in turning their season around. They can be optimistic about next season. For 17th place Nottingham Forest, I'm also going to give them a C. Under Sabri Namushi, they weren't really great at all, to be honest, and I did fear for them, especially with that playoff hangover from last year. But under Chris Hughton, he's really turned it around. It hasn't always been consistent at times, but I do fancy them to have a really, really, really good season next year. In 16th, Coventry, I've gone for a B. To be honest, Coventry, they did have a few bits where we were kind of getting worried about them being sucked into a relegation battle, but on the whole, they haven't. They've always skirted around it, and I never really thought they would be in trouble. And they've definitely got a really good squad to build on, and to finish 16th in their first season back in the Championship, for me, is a really, really solid return for them. In 15th, I've gone for Blackburn, and to be honest, I'm going to give them a C-. I was really expecting early on in the season, when you had Adam Armstrong banging in the goals, and you also had Harvey Elliott creating goals, and they were thrashing teams early on. I think they beat Wycombe 6 or 7, something like that, hoping for playoffs, but the second half of the season has just been so poor, and I think it's time for a change of manager. In 14th, Stoke, I've gone for a C grade. Stoke, they were an interesting one. They were another team like Blackburn earlier on in the season. I thought with Tyrese Campbell playing so well, he was going to kind of drag them to the playoffs, but it hasn't worked out, obviously, with his injury, and their season kind of just petered out in the second half. It would be interesting to see where they are next year with him back, but on the whole, I'll give it a C. For Preston, I've gone for a C+. Preston, they were okay in the first half of the season, just incredibly inconsistent, They won all their away games, but weren't so great at home, to say the least. But yeah, in the second half of the season, awful under Neil, but under McAvoy, they were really solid and got into a safe mid-table position. And to be honest, I think he deserves the job permanently. But for Luton, I'm going to go for a B+. Yeah, Nathan Jones, he's done an absolutely remarkable job there this season, and really ever since he's been at Luton, first and second spell. And to get the team like Luton, with the budget they have, to the top half of the Championship is a massive, massive achievement. So for me, he deserves a B+. Yeah, just what a job he's done. For Millwall, I'm going to give them a B. They started off the season pretty okay, but of course, towards the middle of the season, they had an awful run and kind of dropped right down towards the bottom half of the table. But in the second half of the season, once they got out that bad run, they've been really solid ever since, and they've dragged themselves up to 11th place, which is a more than respectable finish. So for that, I think they deserve a B. In Middlesbrough, who finished 10th, I've also given them a B. After how awful they were under Jonathan Woodgate last year, Neil Warnock kind of just needs to steady the ship this year and make sure they secure the safe mid-table position. And to be honest, he's done exactly that. So he's done what was expected with him. And with a manager like Warnock next season, I can definitely see them pushing for the playoffs. So it should be an interesting season for them. For QPR, I've given them a B+. Yeah, QPR, obviously they had a really bad first half of the season, and it's around Christmas time I was really fearing for them because they didn't look great at all. But you know, in the second half of the season, they've just been absolutely outstanding, and they've given themselves a really good base to build on next season. I can see them doing well, but I'm going to give their season a B+. For Cardiff in 8th place, I've given them B. Obviously, the first half of the season was really poor under Neil Harris. But Mick McCarthy came in and he did an absolutely fantastic job until he was kind of given that new contract when it kind of dropped off a bit. But still, to even get near to the playoffs, he did a great job. So therefore, I think their whole season deserves a B grade. For Reading in 7th, I've given them a B+. Now, it's a really hard one for Reading. I think any Reading fan would have snapped your hand off for 7th before the start of the season. But their season, after just such an incredible start, did peter out a bit. They had a bit of a drip, and then they kind of recovered, and then they had a bit of a drop off again. But on the whole, I'll give it a B+. It's progress for Reading. For Bournemouth, I'm going to give their season a B. Obviously, still getting in the playoffs, which is good, but with the state of that squad they have, just absolutely fantastic. I think they kind of would have expected more this season, to be honest. Which is why I'm going to give it a B. But you never know; they could go up through the playoffs, and it'd be a great season for them. For Barnsley, I'm going to give it an A+. Yeah, what a season for Barnsley, especially after the early part of the season, when Struber left, who I was a massive fan of, and I was kind of fearing they'd go down this season, and how wrong I was, because under Valor and Ishmael, they've just been absolutely outstanding. And with no team will want to play them in the playoffs, so you never know, they could go up. With Swansea, I'm going to give them an A-. Another really solid season for Swansea under Steve Cooper. About halfway through the season, I think they beat Norwich, and Conor Hourihane had just come in, and he was playing well. Unfortunately, Conor hasn't done too much, basically, ever since, really. But, you know, on the whole, they have dropped off a bit, but on the whole, it was a really good season still, which is why I'm going to give it an A+. For Brentford, I'm going to give them an A. Yeah, another really solid season for the Bees. You obviously got Ivan Toney, just casually being the record championship goal scorer. So yeah, just an absolutely great season for Brentford. And for me, they're my pick to go up through the playoffs, even with their atrocious playoff record. I can see them doing it. For Watford, I've gone for an A+. Great season for Watford. Under Xisco Munoz, they weren't great. Vladimir Ivic, they weren't great at all, but you know, still they were picking up pretty decent results and put them in a good position for when Xisco Munoz came in to go on an absolutely brilliant run and eventually go up. And with the squad they have, they probably should have gone up. And finally, Norwich, they are also getting an A+. Yeah, what can you say about Norwich? Just a great side. Some of the quality they've got in that team. Emi Buendia, Timu Puki. Yeah, just so many. you kind of expect them to go up, but still, they've had to work for it, and for me, they still deserve it, and another really, really solid season for them, and I do think they will stay up next year. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and follow me on Twitter, link in the description below for daily football news, and subscribe to my channel on the screen right now. That would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.